Alright, rational numbers. So a rational number is a number that can be written in the form of a fraction. A whole number is any number that follows 0, 1, 2, 3, and these are also called counting numbers. Integers are the whole numbers and their opposites. So this means that it's going to be both positive and negative numbers. So you're going to see a lot of times something like this. You're going to see a box that has rational, integers, and whole numbers. What this means is that all whole numbers are integers and all integers are rational numbers. Alright? So let's look at rational numbers as a decimal. So we're going to deal with 4 and a half. So we are first going to divide the fraction out like we've been doing. Then we're going to add that, your decimal that we got from your when we divided your fraction to your whole number. And then you're going to add the sign. Do not forget your sign. A lot of you don't add that back in. So we're going to deal with the half first. So we put our 2 out, 1 in. So 2 goes into 1 0 times. So 1 minus 0 is 1. We add our 0 here because if you remember, we cannot have remainders unless we're dealing with a repeating decimal for our division problem. So we don't know yet if this is going to be a repeating decimal, so we have to add our 0. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. So 5 times 2 is 10. We get a remainder of 0. So our answer is 0.5. So we're going to do 4 plus 0.5 to get 4.5. And I'm going to look back in our original problem. It was negative, so I'm going to drop my negative in. So our answer is negative 4.5, or negative 4 and 5 tenths. Okay, so rational numbers as fractions. So here we have a decimal, and we're going to make our decimal a fraction. So we have negative 2.5. So we're going to think about our decimal place value. So once we think about that, we know our 0.5 is in the tenth place. So we are going to put our 5 over 10 to get 5 tenths. So we're going to add our whole number, which was negative 2. So if you don't like that negative here, you can drop it out, and we'll just add it back in here in a little bit. So it's 2 plus 5 tenths to get 2 and 5 tenths. Drop our negative back in, so our answer becomes negative 2 and 5 tenths. If we were to simplify this, which 5 tenths can be simplified, that would simplify to negative 2 and a half. Now, the book is not requiring you to simplify, and you might want to check and make sure, see if you have to simplify. So, find out for sure if you need to. I personally, since it doesn't say to simplify, I would take either one. Okay? So, let's look at comparing rational numbers, and this is where you're going to use greater than, less than, or equal signs. So we have negative 0.5 and 0.75. So remember, positives are bigger than your negatives. So 0.75 is our greater number. So let's look at this one. We have negative 4 and negative 6 over 3. So we're going to change negative 6 over 3 to a mixed number, and when we do that, we get negative 2. So now we have negative 4, negative 2. So remember that your negatives run backwards, so negative 2 is actually bigger than negative 4. So ordering rational numbers, least to greatest, and make sure you are reading the directions to see what it is asking you. Sometimes it will ask you for greatest to least. So make sure you read the directions. In this case, our directions are least to greatest. So we have 0, negative 1/2, 2, and 1/4. So we know our negatives are going to be our smallest amount. So we're going to put negative half first, 0, just because of counting order, and then that obviously leaves 2 1/4 as our last one. So let's look at another one. -4, 3 1/4, -1.5. So I want to change -1.5 to 1.5 because I know 5 equals a half whenever we see our decimals. So once we have all that changed, remember negatives run backwards, so it's going to be -4, -1.5, and 3 1/4. Now, sometimes it wants you to plot on a number line, and all you're going to do is you're going to find the letter, and you're going to count. Now, make sure you count the lines. Sometimes it's a half, in case of the negatives here. Sometimes it could be a fourth if it falls in between your halves. Remember, fourth is half of a half. Okay? And make sure you are counting the spaces in between your number lines, because once again, sometimes they change them up, alright? And the number of lines you have is going to be your denominator, and so the number of lines total is your denominator, and the number of lines in is going to be your numerator. Let's see if there's anything else. Nope. Alright. Hope that helps you.